Prague off the beaten track. Vít Pohanka takes you away from the crowds to the city's hidden gems.
Hello and welcome to Prague off the beaten track. In this episode, I'm taking you to one of the city's wildest and most dramatic natural landscapes, Divoká Šárka. It's a natural reserve. You'll find it in the northwest of Prague, in the district of Liberec. And officially, it's stretching across approximately 253 hectares of kind of rocky gorges, sunlit meadows and quiet forests. Despite being just a very short tram ride from the city center, stepping into Šárka feels like really leaving the urban world behind. So right now, I'm standing near the entrance to the Šárecké údolí or the Šárka Valley. I have to say there's a McDonald's here, not far. So if you are into McDonald's, you can definitely get something to take away here to the Šárka Valley, where the Šárecký stream has carved its way through hard ancient rocks, creating a deep, narrow gorge. The name Divoká, meaning wild, I think fits quite well. On one side, there are steep cliffs that rise almost vertically. On the other, there are grassy slopes that roll into stands of oak and mainly pine. It's astonishing to realize that busy Evropská Street, one of Prague's main arteries towards the airport from the part which is called Davice, runs literally just a few hundred meters away. And right now where I am, I can't even hear it. Divoká Šárka, however, at least for me, isn't just about striking scenery. It's a place where kind of legend, history and nature meet. Because according to one of the oldest Czech myths, a warrior maiden named Šárka, that was part of the legendary Girls' War that I think I mentioned when I was recording one of the previous episodes at Girls' Castles on another side of Prague. So this is where Šárka supposedly met her tragic end by leaping from a cliff, now called Dívčí skok. Archaeological finds tell us that humans have definitely lived here since Paleolithic, and over the centuries, hillforts, farmsteads and vineyards shaped the landscape. Today, as Prague's first designated nature reserve, the area protects its rugged geology, biodiversity and historical layering, as I can read from one of the information science desks that you can read here, but the one that I'm seeing right now is only in Czech. So, let's start walking. The loop that I've chosen today is roughly 4 kilometers long enough to take in the variety of landscapes that make Divoká Šárka so special, but still kind of leisurely. So I began at the tram terminus at Divoká Šárka and followed the red-marked hiking trail into the valley. And almost immediately, as I mentioned, the city noise fades, replaced by the sound of running water and birdsong that you can probably sometimes hear at the background. And I happen to be here on a Sunday, and there are some people, but it's not very crowded, I have to say. So it's a nice place to be right now. The path winds along the Šárecký stream, the cool shade of, I think there are willows and there are some alders, and it makes it a pleasant walk, even on a hot day like today. In places, the water slows into quiet pools. In others, it literally rushes over small weirs. The rocky slopes close in, forming a kind of natural corridor. Looking up, as I do now, I can see what is called buližník. It's a dark, grey, ancient rock around 600 million years old, as I learned on the internet. One key reason this area became a nature reserve, because it shelters rare plants like rock alyssum and summer ferns in some of the shaded crevices. And as I'm going on, before long the valley kind of opens into sunny meadows. I read that sometimes you might actually see sheep and goats grazing. That's part of conservation efforts to maintain the steppe habitats. But right now I don't see any. The land kind of rises into mixed woodlands of oak, pine and hornbeam, with sort of snowdrops in spring and orchids in early summer. Oaks and Scots pine dominate the canopy, though forestry crews are gradually replacing non-native trees like black locust and red oak with the native species. And as I learned from the website of the Prague authority responsible, they would like ideally to have oak being the kind of prevailing tree that you will see here. So the path climbs gently to one of Šárka's most iconic spots. It's called Dívčí skok, or Girl's Jump, because the legend says this is where Šárka leapt to her death, ending her mythical rebellion. Well, that would be, I think, rather hard to verify. But I would say from here, with the valley stretching below, the legend feels almost plausible, regardless whether the story is true or not. The views are definitely breathtaking. So from Dívčí skok I head upstream, back a little bit, along the Šárecký stream to one of the valley's most refreshing spots. It's called Koupaliště u Veselíků. So it's an open-air pool, koupaliště, and it is spring-fed directly from the rock, keeping the water very clear and chillingly cold, even in midsummer, as I checked from a little distance, because I don't want to go and swim right now that I'm recording. And there's an entrance fee, and I checked the prices beforehand. Adults pay 200 crowns, students and seniors pay 150, and little children until the age of 16 pay 60. So for a swim surrounded by cliffs and forest instead of concrete walls, I think it's worth every crown. The place is, from what I can see, very well kept, and as I know from other people who like to come here, it's one of Prague's most charming summer escapes. The water, I have to say, is very, very cold, exactly because it is it is fed directly from a spring. Not far from here, and a little deeper into the valley, is another quite charming place. It's called Čertův mlýn, the Devil's Mill. And when I was here some years ago, when I first saw it, I was really surprised, because obviously it is a private residence. And I was wondering how anyone could have a private home inside a nature reserve. And I have to admit, I have thought that it might belong to some corrupt city official or even a gangster. But after checking the internet, I found a program which was recorded by my colleagues at Central Bohemia's station of Czech National Public Radio, and I discovered the truth. It's owned by a Jana Divišová, a widow of an architect, and her son, and they bought it legally during the communist era, when it was basically a ruin, and they restored it themselves for their own private funds. So it was possible even under the communists to do something like that, and they have, you can see that, I mean, they have really restored it lovingly into what I would call rather a beautiful estate. It's not just as a single house or single home. It's a complex of buildings, and I think it can be taken as a proof that living in a historic property within a nature reserve can be both legitimate and enchanting. But I don't want to bother the owner, so I'm not going to speak to them. Let me here mention that Šárka isn't just about nature. It has a cultural heart. There is a letní scéna, which is sometimes used or used to be used by the National Theatre. And it actually opened, as I learned, back in 1913, quite a long time ago. And in its early years, operas, operettas and drama were performed here. It was a very prominent open-air stage. But then, after decades of silence, it's now revived for annual events, like celebrating Prague's 6th, the part of Prague, which is Prague 6th, mainly Davice, Bubenec, etc. And this year, as I can read, they will have a highlight. There will be a performance in September, the 6th of September, of Libuše, the ceremonial opera, romantic opera by Bedřich Smetana, performed under open sky amidst cliffs and a forest. And I think that's a perfect setting for such a romantic piece. Now, from the pool, I headed uphill on a trail which is not marked, but I found it on my map app. And it actually brought me to a small clearing with wooden construction of something. It's called the Přírodní divadlo, or natural reserves. Frankly, I don't see benches right now here, and I'm not sure if this will be the exact spot for Libuše, the opera that I mentioned, but it certainly feels like it might be here as well. The setting is quite intimate, framed by tall trees with the streams that I can kind of faintly hear below. I have to say I'm a bit breathless now, climbing towards the ridge. So now I climbed into an open pasture again, and there's a red trail here again, and it meets the remains of Hradiště Šárka, a fortified Slavic settlement from the 7th to 9th centuries, as I learned, which was covering some 20 hectares, so it was fairly big. And its earthen ramparts are still visible. They are, of course, softened by nature, yet if you know what to spot, you can't miss them. From here, I can imagine how people once watched for approaching enemies from this elevated vantage point, yet quite close to the valley of Divoká Šárka, with very good water. Now, a gentle descent brought me to the Džbán Reservoir. It was formed by damming the stream, and I still remember that. It used to be one of Prague's most popular swimming spots, but then it fell, I wouldn't say into disrepair, but it was kind of neglected, not very well kept. And this year, algae have reduced water clarity, prompting official warnings that people shouldn't swim here, though I can see some locals still swim here. I wouldn't do that. The water is kind of greenish and doesn't smell very nice. There's a kiosk nearby where I stopped for an utopenec. It's a tangy pickled sausage. I recommend if you want to try something Czech. Beer is available too, but since I'm driving later, I'll pass. It's the prices again are Prague prices, I would say, but it's a peaceful place, I think, to rest before heading home, if you feel like it. So from here, it's only a short walk back to the tram terminus at Divoká Šárka on Evropská Street. If you'd like something more modern, less rustic, then of course there's the aforementioned McDonald's that awaits across the street. And it actually brings us to the end of today's walk. As always, you can find photos, additional route suggestions and more on the Prague of the Beaten Track page at Radio Prague International English website. For now, thank you for walking with me. This was Divoká Šárka. And if you found this talk or other episodes interesting, please remember to hit the like button or follow us on your favorite podcast platform, or even share it with your friends. If you find some of these tips of interesting places in Prague, your likes, your following definitely helps us to finance production of a podcast like this or the sister podcast, Czechcast, which you can check as well. So again, thank you for walking with me. I'm Vít Pohanka and I'm looking forward to naslyšenou.
Prague off the beaten track, Vít Pohanka takes you away from the crowds to the city's hidden gems.